And we should be live. Welcome everyone. We've got about 10 minutes before to start. We're just waiting for everyone to connect. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me properly. Back just in time, Linda. Great to hear. Hi Tish. Hi honey. Welcome everyone. So we've got a few minutes before to start. So it is nearly 9:45 p.m. UK time. So we've just had the sunset, so it should be twilight soon. You can hear and see me well. Perfect. Thank you, Tish. You know the drill. I'm going to have to test the microphone. So what I'll do is I'll tap the microphone 3 times. Let me know if you've heard it. And welcome, Mark. Welcome, Shaz. You know the spot, Sarah? Yes. Hi, Trish. Let me know if you've heard the triple tap. You heard it, perfect. Thank you, Sarah. And welcome, Emma, and everyone that just joined. We still have a few minutes before to start. Thank you, Mark. So if any of you were watching the replay in the next few weeks or months or days, if you wanted to skip the hellos, feel free to skip the next 9 minutes. We'll be going into a live walking tour in about 9 minutes. And it is busy tonight on the South Bank. Well, at least it was when I parked my bicycle. Hopefully the gods of the internet will stay with us, because sometimes when it's too busy, the signal can drop down a bit. Finger crossed. Hi Gary, welcome. So we've got a few minutes before to go. We're just waiting for everyone to connect. Yes, Linda, I made it rain for you. So you left the beach to come and join us. I'm glad to have you along. And Julie is here. Yes, it's still hot. It's still very hot, Julie. It's probably just gone under 30 Celsius now, but it was 34 pretty much all afternoon and evening. But now the sun has just gone down, so it's gone a little bit fresher, but it's still very, very warm for the season. And welcome, Carol and Emily. Nice to see you here. Let me give you a glimpse of the view. See, earlier when I was waiting for you, I was sat just there, and 2 French ladies sat behind me, you know, on the bench, literally right behind me. And I had a little drink of water. And obviously they've got no idea I speak French. They were right behind me talking about me in French. They were like, oh, he's drinking too much, he's going to be peeing all night. And first, it's been a while since I've been misgendered. I used to get misgendered when I was a child, but not anymore. And then just to see what they would say, I had another drink and they were like, oh yeah, he's drinking a lot, he's going to be pissing all night. I piss all night myself, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, some people speak French, you know. I didn't say anything, I just wanted to hear how much they would say. But yeah, some people come to the UK and they have no idea that some people speak French down here. But anyway. Not that they said something massively bad, but you know, what's the point? And Janie is here. Welcome, Janie. Welcome, everyone that just joined. We still have a few minutes before to go. We're just waiting for everyone to connect. And it is true, by the way, I do drink a lot, but I don't piss all night. And I still have quite a few hours before to go to bed anyway, so that water is not gonna affect me. This little fun box on letterbox here are quite enjoyable for photo shoots. They're often well decorated like this. Right, let's see how many minutes we've got. We've got 5 minutes. Five minutes before it's officially time to kick off. Very French to bed up? What do you mean? Very French to bad mouth, maybe. Or just to people watch and comment. Yeah, that's a very French thing to do. Or at least it was in my days. Maybe people are getting a bit better now, I don't know. Exactly, les femmes cheeky et herby. Right, let's see what time it is. 3 minutes to go, 3 minutes. Very French of, yes, of very French of people being scared of drinking too much in the evening, that's true. Well, actually, my granddad was also scared of me drinking too much water. He said I might have a stomach ulcer from water. I'm still waiting. But I do tend to drink a lot. When I drink, I drink. I can drink a liter in one sitting. So I understand. That's not what I did just now, but I do drink. But with that temperature, you need to drink anyway. And also, I'm going to be talking for the next hour or so, so I better drink before we kick off. I've seen a flash, but it's not for me. I'm not speeding. I'm not on the motorway. Yeah, it's always a little bit fresher by the river, but tonight it's not going to be fresh anyway, I'm afraid. By the way, it's not too warm anymore, but we still have a little bit of a risk of the phone overheating. So again, if that happened, you know, if it cut off at any point for any reasons, don't get worried. I've not gone kidnapped. It's probably just the phone overheating. We should be fine because, you know, night is coming. The temperature is going to drop a little bit at least. But no, it's no issue. You'd have to drink like massive quantities to. You can overdrink water, but you'd have to drink like, I don't know, 15 liters or whatever. And welcome, Mike. Nice to see you here. Let's see what time it is. 1 minute to go. 1 minute before we officially kick off. The phone needs a fan. Well, that probably wouldn't be a good idea, Atish, because you don't want to hear the wind noises in the microphone. Hi, Tarek. Nice to see you here. And let's see what time it is. Still a minute. Hopefully a few people are gonna go home after sunset because it was packed on the South Bank earlier. And you know what happens when it's too busy? They come and steal my internet. And welcome, Hoki Doki. And it is officially time to start. Welcome, guys. Let me flip this camera around and let's go because Hoki Doki is in a rush. Right, we are on the docks. We are in St. Katharine's docks. So this is a lovely little marina today, but that used to be a very busy dock. That used to import a lot of goods from wine to tobacco. Usually here at St. Katharine's docks it was expensive goods. Nowadays it's a little marina, probably very expensive to come and moor your boat down here. And straight ahead in the middle of your screen now, that is Ivory House. It is, that's the only remaining building really from the original docks. It was known as Ivory House. Ivory because it was sadly full of parts of dead elephants. The UK was a great importer of ivory. We used to produce a lot of pianos in Camden, so to do the piano, whatever you call them, those white stuff you press to do the sound, or sometimes they would create little chest pieces or whatever. So at the time, the building would have been full of elephant tusk, and now it's been refurbished into very expensive apartments. We're talking about 3 million each apartment inside, and some of them are quite awkwardly shaped because, of course, it used to be part of a warehouse. But that's a lovely place to hang around anyway. And behind where we started down there, there's a lovely pub as well called the Dickens Inn down that side. Now, we started on this side tonight because we've got a boat coming through the Tower Bridge at 10 p.m. Well, 2 boats actually. We've got the Dixie Queen as well as the barge Gladys. So we'll slowly make our way down towards the bridge to see that happen. Now, St. Catherine's Docks, it was named after St. Catherine. It was the site of a hospice. A hospice, like today we'd probably call it a hospital, but medieval hospital were not, they couldn't really do much for the sick, so you'd have to see hospital in terms of hospitality, really. And the hospice was not only for the sick, it was, it was a Catholic institution originally where they would host anyone in need, It could be any traveler, any pilgrims, any elderly, any orphans. And it was on for over 700 years. Eventually, when they built those docks at the beginning of the 19th century, the St. Catherine hospice had to move, but I think it's still a running charity today. I think they are around Regent's Park today. So amazingly, they've not been completely closed. There's a little engraving here of St. Catherine's to remember the hospice. Now let's go and take a look at the river. So at the moment we're on the north side of the river. After the bridge opening, we'll cross over and we'll go down for a little walk on the south bank. Oh, why are they making the announcement now? What time is it? We still have 11 minutes. So if you have a boat and you want to come through, you need to get your boat booked in for a bridge lift up. The thing is, you don't go much further because the next bridge along, London Bridge, doesn't open anyway. So it's mainly for touristy boats and stuff like that. Tower Bridge. So Tower Bridge, of course, not to be confused with London Bridge. London Bridge is the next one along. We'll go and see London Bridge in a moment as well. Tower Bridge is not as old as it looks. I know it looks a bit Gothic, really. It's actually Victorian, 1894 to be precise. When they built it, they really wanted a bridge there, but they wanted a bridge that would open to let the boats go through. That's because we tend to forget today, but London is a port city. So they wanted the boats to be able to access the docks. And today we don't see much of the docks around here because what happened is in the 60s, when they invented the shipping containers, those boats were now way too big to come all the way down to London. So the port of London has been moved to Tilbury, much closer to the estuary. But in Victorian times, we still had a lot of docks between here and London Bridge, really. So they wanted those boats to be able to go through. So they had a competition with several architects trying to design a bridge that would open. And the gentleman that won with the best design, his name is Sir Horace Jones. I just said he won. He did win, but he was also part of the jury, so that helped. Oh, I can hear the alarm already. They're a bit early. They're gonna clear off the traffic already because I can see the Dixie Queen. So that is, I believe, the Dixie Queen. It's not usually a public boat. Every so often they sell tickets for a little cruise, but usually it's like private hires and stuff. Same for the second one, Barge Gladys, it's the same. It's for like TV crews or private hires and stuff like that. It's not usually a boat where you buy individual tickets. Oh, that'll be fun to be inside of the bridge during a snowstorm, yeah. Or even just to be up there when they opened the bridge. I've never been up there when the bridge lifts up. I should do it really because I live in Southwark, so across the river there, that's my neighborhood. I can go up Tower Bridge for £1. So I should try to go one day when there's an opening and see it from above, because they have a glass floor. So it's probably quite impressive to see it to see it lifting up under your feet. Now I was telling you the architect Sir Horace Jones, he came up with this idea. So excuse my finger, but on street level, that's the bascule, so that's where it lifts up, and the platforms at the top, that was for the pedestrians. So while the bridge was up, pedestrians could climb up, cross over, and back down. Great idea, but the bridge opens and closes in about 52 seconds. You'll see that in a moment. So already at the time, people, it was very quick. People didn't want to wait all the way. They or climb all the way. Sorry, they wanted to wait like we do today. So that's why the staircases on the platforms became a bit disreputable, let's say. A lot of the ladies of the night used them to wait for the dockers and the sailors, and that's part of the reason why it was eventually closed in 1910. I can see Barge Gladys. So Gladys is up here, the high mast, that's Gladys. It's a bit dark at the moment, but you'll see Gladys a bit better in a moment. So both of them are scheduled to go upriver at 10. Ah, there it is, it's lifting up already. Let me pan the camera around. So they are a bit early, it happens. And there's a page, so there's a web page where you can check what time the boats are scheduled to go through. So it's slowly lifting up. They don't always have to go all the way up, depending on the size of the boat. The Dixie Queen is not that tall, so they don't need to go too high, but Gladys is a bit taller. Gladys has been refurbished, but it dates back to 1901. So that's one of those old cargo ships, really. Here goes the Dixie Queen. Usually they go in for a few hours and then they come back out, because obviously they don't go much further. They moor next to the Belfast down there. They have a dinner or whatever, and then they turn around. It opens, I think it's still about 600 times a year, but it's mainly in the summer, because it's mainly for touristy boats, And here goes the Dixie Queen. And a police boat as well. The Thames Police, they were created in 1798. So we're talking before the Metropolitan Police. That's a Dixie Queen making the noise. Because we had so much crime over the river that we had a need for a police force. Because the Met Police, it's 1829, so much later, like 30 years later. Today the Thames Police is part of the Met anyway. But back at the time of Tower Bridge, the two police forces were actually kind of fighting over who's in charge of the bridge. Because of course, because it was not really used with the pedestrians, it was full of sex workers that waited for the dockers and the sailors as well. And here goes Gladys. Honey, we're not far from Bishopgate. We could walk it from here in 20 minutes. Bishopgate is at the border of the city. We are at the border of the city. That's why it's called Bishopgate, because that was the gate inside of the gates into the Roman wall to go into the city of London. Right, here goes Gladys, and then they'll be able to close it back off. which is going to be good for traffic, because every time they close it off, every time they lift it up, sorry, that kind of blocks off the traffic for a little while. I often do some tours around the Tower of London, and I cycle to work, but I always cycle through London Bridge, because Tower Bridge, you never know if you have an opening that could delay you for like 10-15 minutes, and then you can be late at work. Although on a bicycle you kind of take over the traffic, but when you're in a car, that can cause a bit of delays. And it's going down. There was an accident, by the way. In 1952, there was a double-decker. Albert Gunter, the driver, and all his passengers were already engaged on the bascule when the bridge started to lift. Signalization issue, nothing the poor driver could have done to stop the bridge. He could have stopped, of course, but then he might have ended up into the cars behind him, or even into the river. Or he could jump. Would you believe he jumped? He jumped to safety on the other side. He saved everyone. No major casualties. To say thank you to the driver, Albert Gunter, they gave him £10. Well, at the time it was a bit more than today. We're talking about nearly $300 in today's money. Oh, and a bottle of whiskey. Sorry, I forgot the whiskey. Maybe not the best idea for a driver, but I guess he needed it at the time. And we've not had any accidents ever since. Sadly, we don't have any videos of the jump, because in '52 we didn't have all those people filming for TikTok everywhere. But luckily no one was hurt. There were a few broken bones. The ticket inspector had a broken ankle. There was a boy with a broken collarbone as well. But that was about it, really. And in the distance you can see the shard. Shard like a broken shard of glass. And we had a fox at the top. Yes, you've heard this right. We had a fox at the top of the shard. In 2011, there's a little cub. You might have heard we've got a lot of foxes in London, urban foxes. On average, 19 per square kilometers. But in 2011, there's a little cub that went all the way up there, 72nd floor. And he did not wish to go down. He managed to feed himself with the leftovers in the rubbish from the builders. They had to physically go up with a little cage to remove him. They called him Romeo. And they released him on the streets of Bermondsey on the other side of the river. At the time it was really rare. Nowadays it's not. It's not that unusual nowadays to have a fox entering a building, because they're getting bolder and bolder every year, especially since 2020. Because what happened is, with the COVID lockdowns, a lot of people have started to spend a bit more time in their back gardens, and a lot of people have started to feed their local foxes. So nowadays, it's not that unusual to have a fox entering your kitchen. Twice now we had a fox on a London bus, you know those double-deckers, the red ones? Last July we had a fox in a public library in Twickenham in South London. They had to evacuate the library and everything because the fox was on the sofa. He didn't want to go. And 2 months ago, well 3 months ago now, we had a fox in Southampton on the south coast. He boarded a cargo ship. He's now in New York. They took him at the zoo at the Bronx. So yeah, they're getting bolder and bolder every year. Now, before we go up and cross, let me show you the little secret of the Tower Bridge. This little kind of little alcove here, would you believe that used to be a morgue? Because in Victorian times we used to find on average one body a week floating down the river. Actually, I read it's pretty much still the statistics today, not only in London but across the river, across the country. But in Victorian times, they would keep the bodies on the side of the river where they were found. So that's where they used to keep the bodies until they were identified. That's why you see it's all tiled up, because the body is decomposing. You know, sometimes they would kind of explode and get everything dirty. So that was much easier to wash off, basically. That's why it's called the Dead Man's Hole. So that's the little secret of the Tower Bridge, really. Anyway, let's go up, but we'll take those staircases. On this side, the gate is closed because that would be the entrance to the Tower of London. But the Tower of London would have just closed about 10 minutes ago now. Every night at 9:53, there's the closing ceremony at the Tower of London. So there's a little street on the riverside in the tower called Water Lane. Yeah, and every night, 9:53, you have a beefeater that grabs a lantern. The beefeaters, by the way, they are the guards. Well, they are some guards in the tower. They live in the tower with their families. To be a beefeater, you'd have to have done at least 22 years in the British Army. It's a very prestigious position. There are 35 of them. They live in the tower. So this is the Tower of London across the street there. They live in the tower with their families. So you have a little community of about 130 people living inside at the moment. And 27 dogs, because they all have a lot of pets. And anyway, so yeah, every night, 9:53, there's a beefeater that goes down Water Lane with a lantern and a big set of keys, the tower's keys. Little secret, they have a few keys, but only one of them is useful. It just looks a bit better to have a few. And also, if anyone was going to try to take a photo and do a 3D print and all that, well, they wouldn't know which one to do. Now, the beefeater marches down and then is being challenged by one of the King's Guard. The King's Guard, you know, those are the ones with the bearskin hats and the red tunics. The bearskin hat would go, "Halt, who's there?" And the beefeater would say, "The keys." The guard would say, "Whose keys?" And the beefeater would say, "King Charles's keys." All in order, then go ahead. All of that to be able to close the Tower of London at 10 precisely in the evening. Would you believe it's been over 740 years and it was never ever cancelled, the ceremony itself. It was once delayed for about 6.5 minutes because they were bombed through the Second World War. The beefeaters spent a few minutes extinguishing the fires, and they stood up, they finished the ceremony, and then they sent a telegram to the king to apologize for the delay. The king replied, "That's all right, I'm glad no one was hurt. P.S. Make sure you're never late again." So they take it very, very seriously indeed. And even if you are a beefeater yourself, if you want to walk around the tower at night, you have to know the password. It's very well organized. There's a different password every day. Because you know the King's Guard, they are guests. You know they could be here for a few weeks and then be in a conflict zone anywhere across the globe. So they don't necessarily know all the beefeaters. So even if you are a beefeater yourself, the King's Guard could go, "Halt, what's the password?" And if you don't remember the password because you've had a few too many beefeater gins, it could lead to funny situations. By the way, the gin, you might know the beefeater gin, it is named after the beefeaters, not the other way around. The beefeaters, their name is actually the yeoman warders. I see some people up there. It's usually closed at this time, but I see there are some feet there. So some people are having a private party or something up there. So this is the glass part of the bridge. I'd love to be there at night and have a party on the glass. Why didn't they invite me? Right, I'll show you where it splits. So we are right above the split down here. That's the one. Oops, sorry. And let's go. So yeah, so the beefeaters, it's a very prestigious position. Some of them are getting quite famous nowadays because there's a reality TV show on Channel 5. It follows the lives of the beefeaters. 5 of them are ladies. One of them, her name is AJ. She's just become a sergeant in the job. And yeah, the program, it's a good program, but sadly I cannot watch it because it's one of those TV programs that you know, they'll follow one of the beefeaters for 20 minutes doing, I don't know, feeding the ravens or whatever. Then they move to another beefeater. Then there's a commercial break, and then they'll be like, remember, we were with Gary earlier. He was feeding the ravens. And they tell you again, everything again. I'm like, I've not forgotten. We've had 2 minutes of commercials, that's it. So it's basically like 50 minutes of show with 20 minutes of content. So I don't have the patience, but if I did have the patience, that'll be a very good show. Did any of you, do any of you watch it? Well, I guess for you in the UK, because I don't know whether you can watch it anywhere abroad, but it's quite cool. Anyway, we're now crossing over to the South Bank and night is falling. Let me show you a bit of the view behind me. So you can see the city with all the skyscrapers and all the lights. Some people are still working. Some people work like crazy in the city of London, you know. Some people do crazy hours, all those traders and all that. Although I'm still working myself. So, you know, we all have crazy lives. Now we'll go down and we'll go towards the London Bridge and everything. We could also go down the other side. It's quite nice down that side, but that's probably for another day. We can maybe even take the lift. Let's see. Don't know if it's working. Oh no, see, there's a lift down here. So if you happen to be in a wheelchair or anything, it's usually good, but it's not working today. Now this little street here, it's called River Thames, and it leads to Jacob Island. If you've read Oliver Twist, that's where. Remember at the end, Bill Syke, Nancy's boyfriend, pimp, and murderer. He is running on the roof and he accidentally hangs himself. It is on Jacob Island, which is not an island really, but it's this part of the former docks and warehouses. Today it's full of fancy apartments. All those warehouses have been refurbished into quite fancy places to live. So this is the street. But we're going down the other side. The place we're going to, it used to be known as Pickled Herring Street, just down here. The name has gone now, but yeah. Oh, thanks, Ronnie. That's very much appreciated. Thanks, everyone, for your generosity. Before we go much further, let me get my torch. I'll show you the Royal Cipher here. This is one of the old Penfold letterboxes, and if I show you, this says VR, Victoria Regina. I believe this one is actually a replica. It's not one of the original ones. This model, when they did the first Penfold, they designed it and it was lovely and everything, but they had forgotten to do the aperture, so it was a bit useless. But yeah, nice model. I think that's a replica from the 80s, but always nice to see it anyway. Now, just so you know, guys, if I stop talking at any point now, it could be that there's a security looking at me. This area, it's not actually public. This is part of what we call a POPS, a privately owned public space. London is full of them. And in the POPs, you're not allowed to have any, for example, beggars or any even buskers can be moved away. And in theory, I should ask permission for commercial filming. If I don't talk, you know, usually I just look like a tourist, you know, filming. But once I do live commentary, people think it's commercial. So if I see the security, I'll stop talking. Now, let me give you another view of the bridge by night. It's always beautiful when it's lit up. And thank you, Janie. That's very, very much appreciated. Now, straight ahead, that's the White Tower. This is, so it's all part of the Tower of London, but this is the White Tower. This is the oldest part of the building. That's what was built by William the Conqueror. You might, sorry, I'm just trying to zoom out. No, I'm stuck. Oh, there we go. William the Conqueror, you might have heard of him. He was the Duke of Normandy. You might know the Normans, they invaded in 1066. And when William took over London, let's say that the local community was not massively excited about the idea of having a French king. So William wanted to impress. He wanted to show everyone that they were now playing with the big boys. So he built a massive palace. I know today in terms of height, it's not that high, but at the time it was a huge tower. And he built it here, overlooking the river, so he could check for any invaders coming along. And although it was built as a palace and it was used as a royal residence until James I, it also very quickly became a prison, but a bit of a VIP prison. To be locked in there, you'd have to be from high society or be a high traitor or a former friend of the king or former wife of the king in some occasions with King Henry VIII. And you might also have heard of the Tower of London as a place of executions. Yes, maybe not as many as you'd imagine though. We believe that over the centuries, only just above 20 were executed inside of the Tower of London. And more than half of those were German spies through the First and Second World War. And they were shot. So in terms of public beheadings, we're not talking about that many. That is because it was a massive privilege to be executed inside of the Tower of London. That was luxury. That was for the very, very VIPs. The normal executions, they happened outside of the tower, on Tower Hill, and that was a big party with thousands of people coming to watch and all that. We had so many people coming that the last public beheading, the last public beheading outside of the Tower of London, it was a chap called Simon Fraser. Thousands of people were coming to watch, and some people had decided to pay to enjoy the best view. So they had to build some kind of a scaffolding for the audience to sit on. The scaffolding collapsed. People died. And Simon found it very amusing that people died at his execution, that when they chopped his head off, he was still laughing his head off. So that's how we got the expression. So you can see how casual they were about those executions, really. Anyway, before we leave the tower, the little tower to the right, that's the Cradle Tower. That is the one where Father John Gerard allegedly escaped from. Father John Gerard, you might remember, we spoke about him briefly when we talked about Guy Fawkes. He was a Catholic, he was a Jesuit priest at the time of Queen Elizabeth I, and he refused to stop those illegal Catholic masses. And he was locked in at the Tower. Well, first he was locked in at Marshalsea Prison, then he was locked in at the Clink. We'll talk about the Clink in a moment because we're going down there as well. And then eventually he was locked in at the Tower. And he had been, I cannot say the T word on YouTube, but you know what they used to do at the Tower of London, where they were very badly treated to get some information. It starts with a T and it finishes by R. So they used violence against him, and they destroyed. So he was hanged by the wrist. He wasn't put on the rack, I don't think, but he was hanged by the wrist, and that can break your wrist and damage your nerves and everything. And he made friends with the jailers, and he apparently asked the staff. When you lived at the Tower as a prisoner, some of those prisoners lived quite well. Some of those prisoners they had servants and stuff. That wasn't his case, but it was very much a VIP prison. And anyway, he asked the jailer for some oranges because he wanted to practice his hands and his wrist that had been damaged with the mistreatment. And so he got some oranges. He asked for paper as well, and some feather. And would you believe he was actually writing some with secret ink, you know, with orange juice. You can write on paper, you won't see anything until you put it over a fire, and then suddenly the writing appears. So he would have used that to communicate with his friends. They came and pick him up on a boat. Then he managed to pay the jailer to go and visit his other friend in the Cradle Tower down here. And then that's when they jumped off with ropes and everything. That is the story that he told in his memoirs. The thing is, of course, that was a great story for the Catholics, and it made him look amazing. And the thing is, if you can pay a jailer to get you to bring some oranges, to get you to go and meet your mate in another tower, realistically, you can also pay a jailer to let you out. You know, the jailer might have been a secret Catholic, and Father John Gerard might have lied to protect the jailer, as simple as that, for him not to be hanged. You know, but yeah, that's one of the most famous escapes of the Tower of London. And the boat down here, that's the HMS Belfast. See the naval boat? So that was used through the Normandy landings, through World War II. And oh, you didn't know that about the oranges? Well, you know what? I'll tell you about another story in a few days in a video where I believe they used secret ink as well on stamps. But anyway, that's a story for another day. Now let's go towards Hayes Galleria. So this area has been already developed, of course, after the 80s. You know, when the docks have completely closed and everything. But there's one dock that remains, so we'll go and take a quick look. Back in the day, though, you know, when you had those docks down here, you had queues and queues of lines of boats waiting to unload their cargo, because unloading a ship could take hours and hours, and some of the cargo was really expensive. You know, tea, rum, tobacco, sugar, you name it. And very often you had some people jumping on those ships, you know, to go and steal some of the cargo. They were known as pirates. I know when I say pirates, you probably imagine Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff. Technically, anyone stealing from a boat was a pirate. And the punishment for piracy was the capital punishment. Yes, you can tour the ship. It's a museum. It belongs to the Imperial War Museums, and you can go and buy a ticket to go on board. It feels a bit like a time capsule, you know, because it was left, well, pretty much as it was, you know. And so yeah, that's quite a cool thing to do as well if you are into, if you want to see what it was like to live on a naval ship. Anyway, yeah, the pirates, they would be subjected to the capital punishment. Whether the crime was committed in the Caribbean or on the River Thames, it was exactly the same punishment. They'll be hanged. Oh, thank you, Christopher. That's very nice of you. They used to be hanged a bit further down behind Tower Bridge, quite close to where we started, actually. There's a place called Execution Docks. They'll wait for the tide to be out. At the moment, the tide is almost to the maximum. It was high tide at 9:20. I'm gonna wait because it's a bit noisy. I told you it was busy tonight on the South Bank. Now, here we are. This is Hayes Galleria. So it's a bit hard to imagine, but this used to be water. It's all been dried out, but this used to be water. So that's where the boats used to get into to unload their cargo. If you cannot quite picture it, let me show you. I'll get my torch again. I'll show you. There's a little picture here. So that's what it would have looked like at the time. So the ships would get into it and then they'll be unloaded from their cargoes. So you can imagine a ship like Gladys. So 1901, yeah, Gladys would have definitely come in this type of docks. Now, before we go much further, let me show you, there's a nice little mosaic of the old London Bridge down here. So the London Bridge, we actually should say the London Bridges because we had 5 over the years. This was the most famous one. There was the one with buildings on top. It was the one they had in medieval times. The London Bridge we'll see now is actually from the 70s. It was the one before that one was sold to an American investor. You might know the London Bridge before that is now in Arizona. But even the one that's in Arizona, it's not the most famous one. What happened is the one with the buildings on top, that one is long gone, it's gone, it's been destroyed. And the one they built after that was quite popular, and it was so popular that they wanted to enlarge it. Oh, there is Gladys. They've just moored down here. They've probably gone for a little dinner or whatever, and they'll go back out in I don't know if it's tonight or if it's in the morning. I think it's tonight actually, much later on tonight. So that's the boat we've seen going through the bridge earlier. Gladys. Now back to London Bridge, the one that had all those buildings on the church on top and everything. That's the one with they had 19 arches, and the one after that was so popular that they wanted to enlarge it. And when they started to do the work, they realized that it was sinking, not much, but like a couple of centimeters every year. And that's when they've decided to sell it. And there's an American investor that was interested, and that was sold. Now there's a lot of gossip. Do not let anyone tell you that the American investor was a bit confused. Some people, including a lot of tour guides, would love to tell you that the American investor believed he was buying Tower Bridge, and that he had a bit of a surprise, you know, when they built it back up in Arizona, he was missing his towers. It's a great story, but I'm afraid it's not true. The gentleman was not that stupid. He had come to London, he had seen the London Bridge. We even have the sales brochure. So we know he was not confused. So this is London Bridge. We'll, hopefully from the other side it should be lit up. So we'll go down the other side and you'll see it a bit better. It's usually a bit pinky at night. And down there, that's of course the city of London with all its skyscrapers. Now we'll go underneath. No, sorry guys. We'll go underneath London Bridge. It's hard to tell at night if people are over 18. Otherwise, I'll happily put people on screen to say hello, but when it's teenagers, I prefer to say no. Because officially, you know, you if they are minors, you need permission, because people could create trouble and make you delete the stream and everything. Now, you see one of those Uber boats? Those Uber boats, you can jump on them like you would with the underground. It's a bit more expensive, of course, but it's a nice way to travel. You don't have to book them ahead or anything. It's literally just like a bus, a water bus. If you happen to take them, you want to make sure you tap in and out when you tap your credit card, because if you don't tap out, they'll charge you the maximum fare, and that could be quite far. You always thought it was kind of boring looking at a bridge. Well, it depends which one. Some bridges are fun to watch, although I probably wouldn't look at them for hours, but now we are about to go under the London Bridge, basically. But before that, let me show you a little view of the top of the Shard. There is the Shard. So we are right at the foot, 303 meters high, all the way to the top. And this is the pubs under the bridge were massively busy earlier. So if we happen to have a mini signal drop, don't worry, it should get much better after the tunnel. And excuse my finger, but I'll just show you. Can you see this little spike up here? This is art. Officially, according to the artist, it has nothing to do with any local history whatsoever. But we like to believe that it's a little secret reference to the, you know, the spikes that used to be here. People that were beheaded at the Tower of London, their heads would be placed on a spike down here on London Bridge. And would you believe it was somebody's position? Someone was known as the keeper of the heads. Their job was to collect those heads from the tower, boil them to preserve them a bit longer, coat them in some kind of tar, and impale them on a stick. But then the job was not over. Every so often, they'll have to check the quality. They'll have to check that those heads were not too badly rotten. When really they got too bad, their job was to dispose of the heads. Usually they'll dump them into the river. And we used to drink those rivers, remember? Laurie is asking, why is it so busy tonight? Well, Laurie, it's been so hot in London. A lot of people find it unbearable to be at home anyway, so they might as well go out for a drink. We are in the middle of a heat wave again. And also there's a football match. France is playing against Morocco tonight, so a lot of people might be at the pub watching it. I see the football right now. We can check the score. But before that, see what you see now? That's a gibbet. That's what we used to do to the pirates. So when, apologies if the camera is moving, I think it's my sweaty arm that's kind of touching the cable. I'll try to do it with the other arm. So yeah, the pirates, they would be gibbeted. Oh no, that's not tonight's game, that's just a commercial for the football in general. So we don't know whether France is winning or not. Well, sure they are. Now, we were talking about Oliver Twist earlier.
I'll let you know quite shortly.
Let me show you a little plaque. So, we shouldn't trust all the plaques in London because this one is technically wrong. They say that this is the little staircase that was featured in the novel, the Dickens novel. This was actually in the musical, you know, the one from the 60s. In the novel, Nancy was actually murdered at home in her bedroom. The case is a very similar case to. I'm sorry, I need to swap hands again. It's again my arm. When you're wearing a jumper and everything in the winter, it doesn't matter. But in the winter, if you've got kind of like sweaty arms, the cable kind of sticks to it. Now, yeah, in the you might remember we talked about the case of Eliza Grimwood when we went to Waterloo. Dickens was actually heavily inspired by that murder when he wrote about Nancy being murdered. Similar case, and in the book it happened in her bedroom. In the musical it happened in the little staircase. Although in the book they do mention the staircase when Nancy had a meeting in there with Mr. Brownlow. Brownlow, is that his name? I think it is. Anyway, this pub here is the Mudlark. Mudlark, so those were those people searching into the river. They were, no, they are. They still are. It's still a very popular hobby. Now let's go and take a look, see if the London Bridge is lit up from this side. It's usually a bit pinky at night. London Bridge, by the way, there's under the bridge. It is said to be haunted by the ghost of children and a lot of people actually. Oh, it's funny. Usually it's a bit pinky. It's not lit up tonight. The bridge. Well, you might remember under the reign of Edward I. Was it Edward? Yeah, Edward I. 1290. He basically evicted the Jewish community from the country, so that was quite sad. A lot of people had to leave their homes. They had to. They could take their belongings and their money and everything, but they were expelled, and a lot of those people were put on boats from here, from everywhere really, and they were sent to France. Now it is said that. Sorry, I shouldn't use this hand again. I keep using my right hand, but I should use the left one. So yeah, a lot of people were put on boat with all their money, all their belongings, and there is a story. It's not very well documented, but there's a story that allegedly happened here under the bridge, where the guy that was being paid to take them down to France on a boat, he claimed that the boat was a bit stuck in the mud. And he asked the families to get out of the boat so he could get the boat off the mud, and he actually ran off. I mean, the boat went off with all their money, all their belongings. So those families actually kind of run into the water to try to catch the boat, to save their stuff, and a lot of people died. So that's why it is said to be haunted under the London Bridge. So quite a sad story, really. You've got those boats in Egypt. Yeah, I guess it's a popular thing to do, those boats with the music on the rivers. Now this is Southwark Cathedral. It used to be known as the Priory of St. Mary Overies. And we had a royal wedding in there in the 15th century. That is where James I of Scotland got married.
Hello!
Hello! James I, thank you, Linda, that's very much appreciated. James I of Scotland, not to be confused with James I of England and VI of Scotland. We're talking much earlier. Little James is his dad was, I think his dad had he was kicked by a horse or something, and he became disabled. And his uncle was killed. I mean, there were a lot of tragedies in his families. I mean, the Scottish history was quite dark at the time. And the little boy became king in 1406, but he was kidnapped by the English king Henry V. And he was actually on his way to safety in France when he was kidnapped. And they kept him for 18 years. He actually went everywhere with Henry V of England. He was going to parties and everything, he even became a Knight of the Garter. And eventually when Henry died, they didn't know what to do with the boy. So they decided to give him back to Scotland, but they decided to ask for a ransom. They actually asked for his for money because they had fed him for like 18 years. And that worked. They gave him back to Scotland. But when he went back to Scotland, he wasn't massively popular because he had become a little bit too English. But anyway, he had married an English girl, Joan Beaufort. She was the grandmother of Henry VII, you know, the first Tudor king, and they married here in Southwark Cathedral. It was actually a marriage of love. That was quite rare at the time for the kings and princesses and everything, but they loved each other, those two, apparently. Anyway, down that way, that's the Borough Market, but we're not gonna go down that way tonight because we want to stay on the riverside, because I have some other live walks when we go down the Borough Market. So let's head towards the Golden Hind. The Golden Hind, that's also a boat. It is a replica of a boat from a gentleman called Sir Francis Drake. And yes, it's always nice to see a flying pair. Thank you, Linda. Although I don't actually see the pair, I only see them when I'm in the chat, but I see the tip. Thank you. Right, here is the Golden Hind. It is It's not the original, but this one has gone across the globe as well, just to show that it was definitely possible. It is. It was not always called the Golden Hind. It used to be known as the Pelican, but Francis renamed it after his friend Sir Christopher Hatton. He had a Golden Hind on his armories. Originally, so Francis Drake, he was one of the favorites of Queen Elizabeth I. And you know, today we think of Britain as a great colonial power. No, I'm on YouTube.
Oh.
At the time, they, you know, the Brits were actually a bit slow in the colonization game. Queen Elizabeth I, she would send her favorite explorers to steal from the Spanish. So that's what Drake was sent to do. He actually went. He left with 5 of those boats, but he went all the way to Latin America and he stole a lot from the Spanish, a lot of gold and everything. He was very, very successful and very good at it. But he stole so much that he couldn't go back up, because if he went back the same way, he might have run into the Spanish. So he ended up going up the other way, and he was the second one to go across the globe after Magellan, because he ended up coming back from the other side. He had originally left with 5 boats. You had the Pelican, so that was this one. You had the Elizabeth, the Marigold, the Swan, and the Benedict. But he came back with 1 5 years later. Some of them sank, one of them turned around, and some of them might have decided to stay in the Caribbean and become real pirates, who knows. He's known as a hero. Well, for the English, he's known as a hero because he famously defeated the Spanish Armada. The Spanish believed him to have sold his soul to the devil, because he had been so successful at stealing from them and then at defeating the Armada that they believed he must have done something. He must have sold his soul to the devil. And although he was known as a hero at the time, now he's also kind of known as, well, sadly, he was also a bit of a pioneer of the triangular trade. You know, with his cousin, he was starting a bit with slavery, sadly. Anyway, this is Winchester Palace, or whatever is left of it. Winchester Palace, that was the residence of the Bishop of Winchester, the famous one, that was Henry of Blois. Now, Henry of Blois was the little brother of Stephen. Stephen, you might remember, we talked about King Stephen when we talked about Matilda. He basically stole the crown from his cousin, Matilda, the granddaughter of William the Conqueror. You know, the people were not really ready to have a lady on the throne, so Stephen stole the crown. Stephen was not even the firstborn. He had 2 older brothers. One was William the Simple, and as you might have guessed from his name, he was maybe not best fitted mentally to be the king. And you know, usually at the time when the king had some sons, the first one would be the king, the second one would go into the church, and if there was a third, they'll go into the army. Well, Stephen became king, but his little brother Henry of Blois, became a bishop. And at the time here, you were not in London. Across the river, it was a different jurisdiction. But Stephen knew that his little brother Henry would have been even better than him as a king. So he basically put his little brother as a bishop down here in Southwark, so he could have his little brother quite close to him if he wanted some advice or anything. And Henry of Blois, he was a very interesting bishop because he legalized prostitution down here. It was already happening, but he basically started to take a rent out of the brothels. The sex workers in this area were known as the geese of Winchester, and when you caught an STD, you had been bitten by a geese. Sadly, they were not given the right to be buried properly on consecrated ground, although the church took a cut on their hard work, sex work. And that's why we still have a little prostitute cemetery a few hundred yards down the back. Again, we've seen that from the outside. We've seen that in my tour about the Southwark wife poisoner, the serial killer. Now, we were talking about pirates earlier. Let me show you another gibbeted pirate. Well, I'm afraid it's not a real one. It's probably better, because otherwise it wouldn't smell very good down here. But see, there's another one up there. So that's what they used to do to the pirates. They would hang them on the river shore. So they would wait for the tide to be out. They'll hang the pirates, and they would leave them there hanging for 3 tides to come in and out, to metaphorically wash their bodies away from their sins. And the most notorious pirates, their bodies would be taken down, covered in some kind of tar and placed in a gibbet. So that's a gibbet up there. And apparently it was quite disgusting. You know, some of the kids used to throw rocks at the gibbet to see if any body part was to fall or anything. And this is the Clink Prison Museum. The Clink, that led to the name of the street as well. Clink, after the noise of the, you know, those chain and shackles you could buy if you had money. We know a lot about what was happening in the Clink prison thanks to Father John Gerard, the one we mentioned earlier, the one that escaped from the tower. Because he was a priest, he knew how to write. So he's left a lot of writings about what it was like to be locked up in there, and it was quite horrible because they hardly fed you. That was originally a debtor's prison. You know, at the time you could be placed in prison because you didn't pay your baker or your butcher or whatever. That's what happened to Charles Dickens' dad, John Dickens. He was put at Marshalsea debtor prison, not far from here, and. Yeah, they didn't feed you. So if you were lucky, you might have some kids that could go and beg for you and bring you some food. There was a guy that sold some rats as well, so you could be eating rats. But that was a horrible, horrible prison. It actually burned down quite dramatically in the 18th century. It is believed that it might have been Londoners that set it on fire. Oh, you visited the Clink, Linda. It's quite nice, but it's very small. Now, there's a portrait here of that man that you might recognize. It is, of course, William Shakespeare's. The artist, you might recognize the style. It is Jimmy C. Jimmy C. Oh, I've just stepped on a more disgusting ice cream, I think. I'm gonna have a sleepy, sticky foot. Sticky. Right, sorry about that. I should watch where I'm going, but I actually watch where I'm filming. Now, you might recognize the style. He spent some time with the Aborigine. He's originally from Australia. And you know, the Aborigine, they do pointillism. So he's developed a similar technique, but with the spray can. So it's quite unique. This is commissioned. The wall probably belongs to TfL, you know, Transport for London. So this is commissioned. It's not him coming at night to do this illegally. The next wall, you can see that's Wagamama. So it's an Asian style restaurant. They had commissioned the little boy eating noodles, but it's been graffitied. You don't see much of the little boy anymore. Usually that's not really okay to do that in oh, the swans are a bit further. They were a bit further down, Laurie, like 200 yards down, but it's gone now. Yeah, usually it's not really okay, in the words of street art, to cover someone partially. It's okay to repaint over anyone, but you should actually repaint them fully and start again. To cover someone partially, it's not very nice. Now, this is one of the oldest pubs on the South Bank, the Anchor. It is believed that there's been a pub around this spot for the last 800 years at least. We've got evidence of at least 1625. This particular building is from the 1770s. The pub is much older. You see the pubs, they often have a name and an illustration of the name. So it's obviously called the Anchor, and you have an illustration of an anchor. So that was for people that did not know how to read and write. If I gave you a meeting at the Anchor, you could check the plaque up there and you'd know that you are at the right pub. As simple as that. And it is busy. Well, it's a nice place to come for a drink because of course you're right on the riverfront. I'm gonna go quite quickly because they're playing some music. I don't want to have any copyright claims. Now, the Anchor, guess what? It is haunted. It is haunted by the ghost of a dog. What happened in the Anchor is that, well, like many pubs in the riverside, apparently when the Navy was desperate for staff, they'll come in the pubs, and if they spotted a guy that was quite fit, they would get him drunk, and then they'll get him on a ship. And then you'd wake up on a ship the next morning with a hangover, and they'll tell you, well, you drank last night. You agreed, and too late anyway. You cannot turn around. You're at sea now. And it is said that there was a guy that was drinking with his little dog in there, and of course they got him drunk. And when they tried to kidnap him, the dog wanted to rescue him. The dog wanted to save his master, and they slammed the pub's door on the doggy that cut off his tail. And it is said to be haunted by the ghost of the poor doggy. Now, in the distance, you see a bit of St. Paul's Cathedral, but we'll see that a bit closer in a moment.
Can I get on it?
Yes.
Hey, where are you from?
They're from everywhere.
Everywhere?
Yeah.
Where are you from?
I'm French. Yeah. Bonsoir. Right, so before we go under the bridge, I need to tell you about the engravings. You mentioned earlier the old London Bridge. He had 19 pillars, and because there were so many, that actually slowed down the river quite a lot. The River Thames used to be a bit larger, and because the river was a bit larger, in the winter sometimes it would freeze. Sometimes, not often. That's the type of thing that would happen every 20 years or whatever it might be. And whenever the Thames was frozen, everyone would jump on the ice. All the traders would go and trade on the ice because it was not under anybody's jurisdiction, so they didn't have any taxes or anything. And that was like a party. That was like what today would call like a Christmas pop-up or but that was only every few years. That's the type of parties that your grandmother might have told you about, and it never happened in your lifetime. So whenever that happened, people were so excited. You'd have people ice skating, you'd have people selling souvenirs, you'd have all the printers coming down with the printing press to sell some souvenirs. They'll sell a print saying John came here, or even the king, even Charles II came, and he had a little print saying Charles and Anne and everything came here. And when they destroyed the old London Bridge, the old one, the one with the 19 pillars, not the one that's in America, it stopped freezing. So it's not frozen since the 1920s, really. The 1820s. But they did some little murals of exactly the frost fairs, they were called. They did some little murals of the frost fairs. So I'll show you where that is. I'm gonna have to get my torch again because it's gonna be a bit dark under the bridge. Bear with me.
They're really into their numbers.
Oh, sorry, my torch is blinking. I never know how many. Oh, there we go. Right, so that's the ice. This is the boat stuck in the ice. Those are the traders, and you've got the market and everything. They used to do barbecue. They would roast a pig on the ice. This is the barbecue down here. Sorry. And those are the printers. the printers, they used to make so much money that when it started to melt, they would stay until the last minute, and sometimes they would fall. Welcome, blistering. And let me show you my favorite. This is the ice skate, the ice skating shoe of the time. Now, of course, when the river was freezing, there was one community, one body of work that was not impressed. It was the ferrymen, because they had no more business. The ferrymen, they made a lot of money by transporting people from one side to the other. And when it was freezing, they couldn't make any money anymore, so they started to charge people for crossing. Now let me show you a restaurant that makes the French people laugh. Zizi, in French, that's a willy. So that's a very childish term for the male genitalia. And pret-à-manger, of course, that means ready to eat. So it's basically really ready to eat. So French people find it very funny when they walk past. Oh, thanks, Rachel. That's very nice of you. Always great to have your financial support, guys. It's really thanks to your generosity that I can keep going and create more tours and do more research and all that. So every little helps. And talking about the ferrymen, so the ferrymen, they made a lot of money by transporting people. They made so much money that they were actually lobbying Parliament to stop the construction of new bridges. And would you believe that worked until the mid-1700s? That's why the London Bridge was the only bridge for so long, because the ferrymen wanted to stop the new bridges. And talking about the ferrymen, let me take my torch again. This was the ferryman's seat. It's amazing that they've preserved it, so the boss would sit here and watching over the river on his men and all that. So they've literally saved this little seat, so that's quite cool. And let's go and see the Globe Theatre. Has anyone ever been to the Globe to see a play? Let me know in the chat if you have. So the Globe, it's not the original. The original has burned down. The gentleman that had it built, you might have heard of him. His name is Sam Wanamaker. He was an actor and director from Chicago, and as many actors, he was very much a great fan of Shakespeare's, you know. And when he first came to London, he was very disappointed not to find the Globe. All he found that was a plaque that read, "The Globe used to be there." So he spent the rest of his life, and a lot of his money actually, creating an exact replica. It is not exactly the same spot as it would have been. It would have been a little bit more inland. And it is open air. So this is the Globe, the white building with the thatch roofing and timber frames on the flag. That's the Globe. The flag, it's because at the time, a lot of people did not know how to read and write. So if I ask you to come to the theatre, you could check the flag. Black was a tragedy, red was a romance, yellow was a comedy. So that's how you knew whether you wanted to go. And how did you go, Tariq? Did you buy the tickets in the pit for £5 or the one on the outskirts? Let me show you. You like how I say Chicago? Let me show you the inside. So this is the inside. It is actually open air. Because at the time of Shakespeare's, a lot of people didn't wash very much, so it had to breathe. And also because at the time of Shakespeare's, they'll play the play in the afternoon, so they would use natural light. And I have gone to see a play myself, although I don't know if I recommend the tickets in the pit, because 3 hours of standing in the pit in the sun, it can be a bit long. So standing in the pit, if it was raining, you're not allowed an umbrella. So think twice before to buy your tickets in the pit. On the outskirts, it's about £30 or 27 or something like that. Did any of you see the show? It's not even new. I've watched it recently, but what is it called?
He gave like.
What is it called? River. It's a show with Nicola Walker. She plays a police officer, inspector or detective inspector Stevie, I think, and she's dead from day one. And her colleague is looking to solve the murder. He's an actor from Sweden, and his character, he's got schizophrenia. Anyway, why am I telling you that? Yeah, because there's a scene in the Globe where he's looking at his colleague, and because of the way it is done, depending on where you're sitting, you can see the audience, and you can actually see how Shakespeare's plays have been written to include the audience. Because nowadays, when you go to the theater, the audience is in the dark and the actors are in the limelight. But of course, at the time of Shakespeare's, the plays were played in the afternoon, so they would use natural light. Oh yes, you've seen River, Herbie? I've watched it recently. And you know what? In the series, so Inspector River, he's got some hallucination, he's got schizophrenia. And one of the main characters he speaks to, it is in his mind, he's got schizophrenia, but it's actually Thomas Neil Cream, the serial killer. I did a tour about him in Lambeth. I should schedule it again. So yeah, it's interesting because it's actually a Victorian killer, but the detective inspector actually sees him in his hallucinations. Anyway, if you've not watched it, it's a good show. I'll watch anything with Nicola Walker anyway. Now to get back to Sam Wanamaker, he had died before the opening ceremony, but his daughter, she came and cut the ribbon. His daughter, you might know her. Her name is Zoe Wanamaker. She's an actor. She plays the Quidditch teacher in Harry Potter. Yeah, I agree. The Blue Nomad. London looks amazing at night. Well, especially this part of London. It might not be the case everywhere, but the South Bank is beautiful at night. Now we're getting towards the end of the tour, but I want to finish on the Millennium Bridge because there's a bit to see under our feet. Now you don't see much at night, but the building behind, the building straight ahead, that is the Tate Modern. So it's a former power station. They used to burn coal to produce electricity, and now it is a free museum of modern art. Henry Tate, he was an interesting character. He accumulated a large collection of art because he made a lot of money with commercializing the sugar cubes. Before him, sugar was only in bags or in sugar loaves. He didn't really invent the system, but he put down the pattern in the country, and he made a lot of money. And with that money, he bought a lot of art, and he lived for a very long time for a Victorian man, I think until the age of 90. And as his health deteriorated, he wanted to donate his collection to the nation. But government kind of snubbed him. They were like, "Oh, thank you, that's very nice of you, but we need a building as well to expose your collection." And Tate was like, "Oh yeah, okay, you're right." He gave them £80,000. That was a huge amount of money at the time to build a gallery. And then government was like, "Oh, that's very nice of you, but we need a building as well. We need a land as well to build the building." And Tate was like, "Nah, that's enough." So that's how they ended up using the site of a former prison. So Tate Britain in Pimlico is the site of a former prison, and this one was the second one, is the site of a former petrol station. There's another Tate in Liverpool as well. Now we are going on the Millennium Bridge. The Millennium Bridge, as you might have guessed from its name, was built to celebrate the millennium. It's also known as the Wobbly Bridge because it nearly fell down. What happened is when they first opened it on 10 of June 2000, hundreds of Londoners were waiting to cross it for the very first time. And it was almost like a marching, because they were so busy. We shouldn't do a march on a bridge. Even the military, they have to break the step, because it can create some kind of an echo that can make bridges fall down. I hear a church behind me. What time is it? Is it 1:15 or something? Oh, it might be St. Paul's. It feels like it's coming from behind me, but logically it should be St. Paul's. It should be from in front of me. Might be St. Paul's. It's probably 1:15. Anyway, so yeah, the bridge started to move. Not massively, but enough for them to evacuate. And they even had to pay some volunteers to recreate the experiment when it was closed. And sorry, I'm looking under my feet at the same time because I wanted to show you some chewing gum, but in the dark I don't really know. Let's see if that's a good one. There is an artist, his name is Ben Wilson. He paints on dirty chewing gums. This one is not the best. I'll find you a better one. But yeah, to get back to the bridge, because it nearly fell down. A few years later, when they had to choose a bridge to make it fall down in Harry Potter at the beginning of the 6th movie, in the books, J.K. Rowling, she did not mention the Millennium Bridge. She mentioned another bridge, but she actually mentioned the Hungerford Bridge. It's the Charing Cross Bridge. But they were like, yeah, it has to be the Millennium Bridge because it nearly fell down. So they thought it was very funny to make it fall down for good. And it's safe now. Apologies if I'm a bit distracted. I think there's one here. Oh no, it's not much better. We'll find a good one. Ben Wilson is, so he paints on those dirty chewing gums that you see under your feet. And it is not illegal. Because of course the chewing gums, they don't belong to whoever spat them. I mean, they don't belong to the public or to the city council or anything. They belong to whoever spat them. So it's not illegal to paint on them. Although the London City Police, they actually did take his DNA by force. No, this is not a good one either. It's quite hard to find at night, but we'll find a good one. I suppose they took his DNA to check that it wasn't him that spat them. He actually did one for me a few years ago. He wanted to do it again, but I was like, no, don't, because I saw him not so long ago and I showed him. And he was like, oh yeah, I remember, I'll do it again because mine was a bit dirty. But I was like, no, don't worry, I don't want him to, I don't want to give him more work, he's a very popular man now. But he had painted 3 sushis for me. Oh, this one is a bit better. Mine was towards the other side, but it's got so dirty and so damaged I cannot find it. Ah, sorry, I've just stepped on my cable. I want to find you a good one, but this one maybe. No. A lot of them are getting a bit used. I think there are some new ones towards the middle. Let's go straight to the middle. It's a very unique piece of art. It's funny though, I remember seeing a video of him being kicked out. So he was just in front of the Tate, so technically it was the Tate property. And in the Tate, they actually had an exhibition about street art. And he was being kicked off by the security because he was painting on a chewing gum. So the irony of street art, it's all very interesting. Right, there should be some nice ones around here. Let's see. That's a bit better. I'd love to find you a very new one, but they're all a bit old. He has done some recently because I saw him not long ago. Let's keep going. We'll find some somewhere. And straight ahead it is, of course, St. Paul's Cathedral. St. Paul's that very famously survived the Blitz because the Nazis, they used the church itself to find their way. So they did not destroy it because they wanted to know where they were. So you have those very dramatic photographs of London is full of black smoke and everything, and you can see St. Paul's standing strong in the middle. Right, is it better? Oh, a little bit better. Apologies, I cannot find you a beautiful, clean, new one, but you get the idea. This is much easier at daytime, but the views are much better at night. Still keep going a bit in case I find a nice one. No. Let's keep going. What's disappointing, blistering? The chewing gum? And you can still from here see the Tower Bridge in the distance and the Shard as well down here. Right, let's just go a bit further down towards where I saw him last time, where he was doing some new ones. And if we don't see any nice clean ones, we don't see any nice clean ones. It's fine. Anyway, we're getting towards the end of the tour. Thank you very much for coming tonight, guys. It's always a pleasure to have you along. Yes, Ben Wilson, Linda. You can find him on Instagram. He's getting very popular now. We'll keep going a bit further, because all the ones I find so far, they were nice at some point, but you can see they're a few years old. They've been stepped on quite a few times, and they've lost a bit of their color, but there are some nice newer one. He had done last year, he had done a little Westminster Abbey in front of the Abbey, a little National Gallery in front of the National Galleries, a little Big Ben in front of the Elizabeth Tower, and a little London Eye in front of the London Eye. Apparently it was a partnership with Specsavers, you know, the opticians. So maybe I should have gone to Specsavers. No, that's... Oh, I cannot find any good new fresh ones. That's a shame. No. Maybe it's just that they look crap at night. Because if I remember right, the last time we came here at night, we had the same. We struggled to find any good clean ones. Oh, thank you, Pauline. That's very much appreciated. Now, the one he had done for me years ago, the sushis were around here somewhere, but those we definitely not going to find, because I have not found them in years. No. I don't find any fresh ones. Ah, no. Sometimes you can see when it's a bit fresh because it's cleaned. Oh, this one is not too bad. So you can see a bit. Some people are laughing at me in the back. They have no idea what I'm filming. So yeah, those ones are not too bad. They're a bit fresher. They, if you see me from the distance, I'm squatting with my torch on my phone. People probably think I'm mad. Right, finally, I've shown you a few, so you get the idea. And anyway, let me flip this camera around so I'll show you my face. Let me put the torch away. And thank you for coming, guys. It's always a pleasure to have so many of you on board. If you want to see a bit more of me, next week we're going down to Stoke Newington. So that's on next Sunday. So that's when that's the tour. You know, we've not done it in a while, but where we go to Abney Park Cemetery and Clissold Park, and it's a lovely little area. And the week after that, we're going back to Chiswick. So that's again on the riverside. We've got, that's the site where Jack the Ripper suspect was found dead. And we also have a nice little graveyard and some beautiful views. So hopefully you'll join me for that. And thanks, Ken, and thanks everyone for coming. If any of you were completely new to me, I hope you'll give me a subscribe. This way you can make sure you don't miss out on the fun next time, because those live streams, they're quite easy to miss. So if you want to make sure you don't miss the live, the best best is to subscribe and hit the little notify me bell. This way you get notified, hopefully, when I go live. And and I'm not gonna spit my chewing gum. I don't do chewing gums anyway, but yeah. Thank you guys. Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your night or the rest of your day, whatever time it is for you, wherever you are in the world. Oh, thank you, Ken Williams. And hopefully I'll see you in the next live. Have a good rest of the day, guys. Bye bye.